Hello. Hi Rahel. And hi anyone else. This is Brandy Rose Smith, live from the Forbidden Library. Welcome. Apologies for the change. This is a Saturday. I know, it's weird. It feels like a Sunday because I'm here, but it's not. It's Saturday. I got some plans this morning that I can't get out of tomorrow, and I would have been sad if I didn't get to stream over the weekend. I'd have to wait till Tuesday again. So I decided to squeeze it in this weekend. Yes, it is comfy Saturday time. You'll have a whole Sunday to do what you want now. You don't have to watch me. Yeah, that's the reason. Just got some plans that happened. But anyway, we're reading more of my book. We've gotten through a lot of the drama already, but I will recap for those who may not have been around. So, Dreda Tarth is a 20-something who just wants a job. She has no qualifications, so she thinks she's in luck when she gets an offer for an interview from an office people who say they're going to train her up and it's going to be great. Turns out she gets there and it's a supervillain's plot to get hostages in this world that has basically become a big comic book since people have started getting powers since the turn of the millennium, and it is 2015 in this book when I started writing it. She does get caught. She meets another guy in there who's a bit sus and way calm about it. She's surprisingly calm about it too. And then the villain turns up and she knocks the villain out because she's a badass. And then the other guy calls for rescue, and Lanny turns up to rescue them. That Tornado, another hero, turns up to rescue them. And then they get separated in the vans, and she gets pulled into a van with this other guy and the hero, and they go, "Hey, you're insane, the exact brand of insane that heroes are." And she's like, "Wait, what?" And they're like, "Do you want to become a hero?" And she's like, "Well, I guess that sounds like a good idea. Do I get paid?" So they take her to Hero HQ where she gets tested. She shows off her badassery even more, and they're like, "Yeah, you can become a hero. You don't have any powers, but if people looked at you fighting, they would assume you had powers, so that's fine. You have powers." 1 second, I realised I forgot to put my link somewhere I should be putting it. There we go, I always forget that one. I put it all over the Twitters, I put it all over the Reddits. But I have a friendo Discord server that also wants them, and I keep forgetting about it. Anyway, what was I up to? Oh yeah, so she does that, and then they start her off on Hero Bootcamp, which is basically a lot of reading, some measurements for a costume, talks to the police about do's and don'ts. It's all very organised compared to your usual Justice League, here you are, here's our base, off you go kind of thing. During that time, the person who's helping her and showing her around, Claire, reveals that she is Mist Paragon, a hero that saved Dreda 3 years ago. She didn't really remember her at the time, but when Mist Paragon / Claire realizes that Dreda is the person she saved, she realizes she saved her from these horrible experiments, which basically put her in wonderful, horrible death matches, and it was generally awful. The point of the experiments was to find out where the powers in this universe called tricks, and where tricks came from, and how to make them more powerful, etc. And Dreda came along as an exception to the rule all the time, so the scientists became quite fascinated with her, and it became very awful. Claire managed to save her from it, and she's had a lot of therapy since, and she has a new identity since. But Claire gave her the file on it. She didn't have to read through it, and she's still not sure if she wants to look into it. But Claire gave her the information on a passworded file. Too bad she went to Tim, the guy she met at the start, to tell her how to use a computer, because she's not very good at using a computer. And he saw the file and he got curious. He waited till she left and he hacked into the file and found out about her horrible science experiment past. And then they had interpersonal drama of understanding each other. Because he looked at her like, "Oh, how is she acting so normal after all those horrible things that happened to her?" And she's like, "How could he treat me so differently?" And now they're okay again. Now, after she nearly killed him for being curious about the file, she eventually came to understand You know, it's kind of normal for people to have that reaction to what they found out. And Timmy said he'll try to do better, and now, as punishment, Timmy is having to mentor Dreda. And now they're going out into the field, I guess. They have to do their first hero patrol together, while Timmy being the mentor and Dreda just learning stuff. And that's where we came up to. I'm going to have to think of a better way to summarize that. I know I summarized half the book there, so that's probably why it was so long. But there's got to be some details I can cut out there to make that more succinct. But anyway, that's next stream's me problems, because we're going to be like a good 3/4 of the way a good 3/4 of the way through by the time we're done in this stream, I reckon. And that means there'll only be 4 streams of this, which again, I expected. It's not a big book that I wrote. I just wrote lots of them. But anyway, chapter 8. Learning. When they arrived at the busy bomb site that was Trish's office, Trish and Claire were already there. They were surprised to see Tim and Dreda together for 2 reasons. 1, Tim was not dead, or too banged up to move, and 2, they were still actually willing to work together. They had been making plans for Claire to take over as Dreda's mentor at the time, but since they were still okay together, it was scrapped. Trish declared that the 2 would still go on patrol today, but take the evening times, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. A tough one to start with, but it was also Trish getting back at them for throwing off her schedule, which she lectured them about for another 10 minutes. After finally being let out from the wrath of the office demon, the 2 decided to leave the building for a while. Go get your gear, I'll wait for you. Dreda stopped him. My gear? Oh, yeah, go ask Vince if your costume's ready. We tend to keep our gear on us in case we come across any trouble while not on patrol. It's not like we can plan where danger strikes. He gave her his first bit of information as a mentor. Right, I'll be right back. Dreda nodded. She left, reasoning in her head. It made sense, and she was happy to hear it. It meant that she didn't have to ignore things, because people might find out who she is. But she guessed it meant that things could be dealt with quicker. Things could be dealt with quicker should the hero on patrol not be able to get to where it was happening at the time. Wow, that's a terrible sentence past me. It was a long time ago I wrote this, and I know I edited it more recently, but shut up. When she asked for her costume, Vince just pointed to a shoulder bag sitting on the counter and went back to his work. Everything was in there. The dress, the shorts, boots, gloves, mask, all tidily packed away in a purple shoulder bag package. There was even some extra pockets and room where she could put her keys and purse. Thanks, she made sure to say before leaving and meeting Tim at the elevator. For now, the 2 had decided to stick together. Dreda was somewhat afraid of the idea of stumbling upon some kind of trouble and having to apprehend her first villain alone. Obviously, she wasn't worried about actually beating the villain, just not killing it. Tim saw how down she was. The anxiety had started to sneak back now that she had calmed down, and after Trish's lecture, she felt like she really messed up. So he reckoned a walk and some fresh air could get her mind off it. He wanted to go to the comic book shop anyway. So the 2 of them left the building, Dreda asking him about what kind of comic books he liked. She didn't understand some of what he was saying, especially when he said something about preferring DC over Marvel. But she listened anyway. There was a lot she didn't know about, especially when it came to Tim. He knew about computers and comics and the internet. A lot of what came out of his mouth was somewhat confusing to her. He rattled something about bird babies now as they walked down the street, but she listened anyway, thinking maybe she could learn, thinking maybe it would be interesting to find out about his interests. Or maybe she just liked how enthusiastic he was about it. Again, I started dating my boyfriend not too long before this, who is a big fan of the Robins and the Bat family. So that's where that came from. She listened all the way to the comic book shop, but then listened some more when Tim and the owner started talking, as the owner found his orders. Now this is something, again, entirely based off interactions with my boyfriend. When I started going with him to the comic book shop, and he would spend a long time talking to the owner about what comic books were coming out, and if he was enjoying the ones he was reading, and all sorts of stuff. They were very friendly. It's sad that comic book shop is closed now, and it makes me sad. But the owner was super cool, and he actually still does sell my my boyfriend comic books, but he had to move into like the back of a different shop to do it. He just gets the orders for like a few of his like local people that he knows, and that's it. It's very sweet. He's a good guy. Eventually, Drader got bored and started looking around. The comic book heroes were different from the real ones. She imagined Vince turned his nose up at how impractical some of the... Oh, come on, mouse. Work with me. Work with me! Designs were. She had to admit she'd not seen many in the real world with capes and as scantily dressed as some of these. Then something else caught her eye. When they registered, she sighed. She shouldn't have been surprised. There, on the shelf, were comic books of very real heroes. Mist Paragon, the Wild Sisters, Dart Tornado. She guessed it should have only been natural to make comic books of them, since they mimic the heroes of the books already there. She reached for the Frigid Hack book and flicked through. Drada snorted a laugh when she looked through. She hadn't really read anything, it was just the art style. The art was good, but the real Tim was not quite as manly as the one in the comic. It's not that Tim wasn't fit, but he had a very skinny build, whereas the one in the comic... Not Tim, she muttered. It was most definitely not the skinny nerd of the Batcave who she realized was glaring at her from across the store. With what she would have sworn was a dropping temperature, she hastily put the comic book back on the shelf. Tim paid for his small stack of books and then left. "What did you think of the comics?" Tim asked, as the two waited for their lunch in a cafe they both liked. "You're not that manly," she responded without thinking. "Hey," he hissed. "Not that you're not manly, but you don't have tree trunk muscles that look like they could bench press a building." She hastily tried to make it better and wasn't sure she managed it. He just pouted and looked away, trying to recover his cool exterior. He'll have one eventually, you know. He changed the subject. "I was thinking about that," Drada said honestly, hands around her steaming cup of tea. Do they do weird backstories for everyone? 'Cause I mean, Mungo would probably be an alien from the moon or something." "Oh, they do," Tim nodded. "The Wild Sisters are apparently daughters of demons. Claire was a lab assistant in an experiment gone wrong. I've apparently got some kind of magic stone source of my power, and Lanny's a fairy." Fairy, for the record. I know that sounds very similar to fairy, but it is not. Lanny's a fairy. Also, for the record, for the funsies, one of these is true. Entirely correctly true. I'll let you guess which one, and I'm not confirming. They don't like stories of us being tricksters, Tim explained with a look of disgust. "I am so an alien," Drada sighed, disappointed, completely missing the discrimination. "I don't want to be an alien." Tim gave a frown that he missed the chance to regale her with the complaints he had about how stupid the world was when it came to tricksters. "Drada is just soft and ignorant. I'm sorry, sweetie." He decided not to go back to it, reminding himself that she wasn't a trickster and she wouldn't be aware. So he decided to ask instead, "What would you want? What would you want them to write you as?" He sighed. "A werewolf," she answered with a smile. Then something clicked with him. "Hail." "Hail," she nodded. Teen Wolf reference, if anyone watched that. They could still, the two stopped when an alarm hit their ears. Jewelry store across the street, he reported without missing a beat. His eyes focused on it. "Get changed, hide your bag, meet me out there, and do it fast." Drader's heart stopped a moment as he was off his seat and gone in seconds. Shit. It was now? Shit. She had to go be a hero. Shit. The sound of a gunshot or explosion. She didn't quite register it, but it knocked her out of her panic. She had to move. She pushed her chair back. It was time to get in character, she thought as she opened the door to the women's toilets. Moon Girl. She was Moon Girl. She was strong. She was confident. She was mysterious. "You can do this," she whispered to herself as she tried to get changed as quickly as possible, but the outfit was tight in places, so she struggled a bit. She eventually stumbled out of the toilets after stuffing her bag in a cupboard under the sink. Luckily, the people in the cafe didn't notice because they were too busy looking outside. The window of the building may as well have been a TV screen. Drader couldn't see much over their heads, but white lines of energy streaked and clashed with ice tall enough to see. "Cutcaster," she muttered, remembering the files. Cutcaster was a young man by the name of Donald Arciano, a villain typically associated with Lanny, as the two of them had similar powers, though Donald was only estimated to have a trick level of 40. In comparison to Lanny's 95, his air manipulation may as well have been just breathing. But still, it had caused a bit of a rivalry between the two, and he declared himself her arch enemy. His speciality was making razor-sharp gusts of air by swinging his fingers like a sword. With that in mind, Drader decided getting the element of surprise would be the way to go, and decided to sneak around to the back entrance of the cafe. Luckily, even the kitchen staff had decided to watch the trickster duel outside. She managed to find a fire escape that led out into an alley around the side of the building. She snuck down her back to the cafe wall until she had a clear view of Cutcaster. He had his back to her. Perfect. Each of Caster's cuts took a moment to charge up, but that only took one hand. With the other, he blasted a suited up Tim back every time he tried to use that opening. So really it wasn't an opening at all, but it was for Drader. With her plan set, she crouched into a sprinter's position. She had to clear a substantial distance between them before he could turn around. So, she was going to have to be fast. She waited, muscles coiled. Then she felt the strange air pattern and sound of the unnatural wind of another one of his cuts being sent off, and knew that was her moment. She shot like a bullet, the springs of her tense muscles firing her at Cutcaster. Caster was so focused on Tim's next attempt to advance that he only managed to see a blur of purple at the corner of his eye before his feet were taken out from under him. The world, to this hooded youth in a wizard hat, must have seemed a bit odd. 1 minute he was trying to steal jewels, fighting Frigid Hack. Next he lost his balance and everything went black. "What took you so long, Moon Girl?" said. Well, it was Tim. Drader knew it, but apparently they had built-in voice changes in the suits. She brought her eyes from the unconscious bad guy beneath her and looked at him. Obviously, she'd seen Frigid Hack before, on TV and in the newspaper, but it was another thing to see him when you knew the man underneath the mask. Strong, mysterious, she thought to herself as she answered. "None of your business," she said, trying to hide how weird it felt to hear your voice come out deeper than it should. "Question is, why were you having so much trouble with him?" He smirked. Whether it's because of her acting or he was trying not to laugh at her voice, who knew? Though, looking at his outfit, she could figure how he got changed so fast. A more punk design with jeans and Converse she swore he had been wearing before. All he had to do was change his shirt and a waistcoat and apply some spiky ice to his shoulder pieces. And supply spiky ice shoulder pieces. Now this is a I'm gonna tell you about this, about Timmy's outfit here. So originally it was a little bit different, but when I got the covers redesigned, I let the artist have a bit of free reign on what the actual design was gonna look like. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find the old outfit for you. I don't think I can. I don't think I have it on this PC, unless it's in Dropbox. It's probably in Dropbox somewhere. Timmy. He's my icy boy. Because the other one was a lot more flamboyant, a lot brighter as well. The artist really toned him down, which I was fine with. I wasn't 100% happy with my original design in the first place. So let me see if I can get the old cover for Moon 2 up instead. That's probably my best bet. Yeah, there it is. Let me... Can I just drag it in here? Yes, there we go. Cool. So this is what his outfit used to look like. As you can see, it was very bright. It didn't make much sense. It was this big old blue jumpsuit with some belts and stuff. Not very pretty at all. Not very pretty at all. And now his outfit. He's on the cover of The Second Moon Girl. Picture. Where's my second book? There's my second book. And then I let the artist have free reign. And this is what she came up with, which is generally a lot cooler. And I like the Converse. Gives me kind of like Miles Morales moments. I like the different colored gloves with the different colored fingers. Yeah, I generally like what she came up with, and I also like the idea that he can make his own ice shoulders with this, and that way it's like it makes more sense. It's much more practical than what I had drawn. Anyway, back to the plot. He must have fought Trish for an outfit so simple. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live on the scene of a recent attempted robbery of SH Annals Jewelry Store on Broad Street West. The perpetrator seems to be Cutcaster and... As Drader watched the news crew slowly edge towards them, the overexcited newscaster walking backwards as the cameraman followed her. Tim walked over to her. Brace yourself, he muttered, and Drader nodded. Time for my debut, she thought, repeating the mantra in her head. Strong, mysterious. Strong, mysterious. He was apprehended by none other than Frigid Hack, likely getting Dart Tornado back for her taking care of Apex Illusionist a week ago. But it seems he was not alone. The camera moved to Drader and Tim. Drader did her best not to look like a deer in headlights, being grateful that her goggles and face mask made it hard to tell for others. It seems we are being treated today by the appearance of a mysterious new hero. Please introduce yourself to us. Nervous as hell, her stomach wanting her to puke out all of the tea she not long drank, she took a breath, struck her mystery pose and said her lines. I am Moon Girl, and I am here to do what's right, to help those in need and to stop those who scheme against others. She wanted to die. She was so embarrassed right now. Oh, being a hero is suffering. Oh, folks, what do you think of our new hero? Tell us on Twitter, #MoonGirl. The presenter went on to talk to Tim, asking about Drader and their relationship. Drader just watched, doing her best to look disinterested, even if she wanted to see how he handled all of it. She was distracted, though. when she felt a weird heat. She looked around, but she couldn't see a source. All seemed fine, but this heat wasn't right. And she'd felt this before. She was sure of it. Moon, she heard the oddly deep voice of Tim. It's time we left. She focused again and nodded as they darted away from the camera crews and reporters who was trying to call them back for more questions. They darted into an alleyway and found a dead end where Tim stopped and threw up an ice wall with his hands that had a mirror-like sheen to it. Probably enough to fool passers-by that this was an empty alleyway. We're clear if you want to relax a moment. Why'd you leave your stuff? He asked the girl, his voice changer off. That was horrible! I have never been so embarrassed in my life! Drada said, her voice changer still on as she took off her mask and goggles, and pulled down her face mask. He was trying not to, but the odd snigger escaped. Stop that! Trish told me to do it, you know. She snapped. Soft baby, it's okay. Everyone thought you were cool. Sorry. He put his hands up. Your reaction to your first time was just funny. Drada pouted, trying to calm down as she turned off her voice changer. You want me to get your stuff? Tim offered. You can't. I left them in the ladies' toilets at the cafe, she answered. Tip 1. Tim spoke as he walked over to the dumpster. To a dumpster. Hello, Luke. It's been a while. You're cool. Nice to see ya. Try not to leave your stuff inside buildings. It's hard to sneak in and get it back there. It's hard to sneak back in and get it. Now you tell me, she sighed. Lucky for you, I took a page from my mentor's book and asked Vince to make you an extra set of clothes for me to carry around in case this ever happened. It has been a little while. You've been busy. Busy dinosaur. That's okay. I forgive you. It's okay. You don't have to cry. You're allowed to be a busy dinosaur. He pulled his blue backpack from the dumpster and Drada pulled a face. She wasn't exactly a clean freak, but leaving your stuff in the garbage wasn't going to be nice. It's a paper recycling dumpster, so your stuff won't smell. He rolled his eyes. She relaxed as he rooted through the bag and pulled out a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. Here, he handed it to her. Thanks, she accepted the clothes and put them on the ground temporarily. She started to change. Tim nearly had a heart attack as she just started unzipping her dress. Whoa! What are you doing? He darted back from her as if she suddenly burst into flames. Her blue eyes blinked, clearly confused by his reaction. She straightened, and the top of her dress fell down to reveal the black and white checked bra underneath. Tim stared, his face redder than Drada's hair. She's starting to get changed. Yeah. What? Never seen boobs before? She asked, hand on her hip. Hands on her hips. He eventually shook his head, though struggling to peel his eyes from her breasts. He snapped, Of course I have! She just smirked, not sure she believed him with his reaction. Either way, if it makes you uncomfortable, then throw up another mirror ice wall, she told him. I was going to do that anyway. He snapped, his eyes still not on her face as he threw up his hand, and she watched and she was suddenly staring at him. As he threw up another hand, and she was suddenly staring at herself. She tried not to laugh too loud as she got changed. Sweet boy. Sweet boy. She gives no fucks, he gives all the fucks. Oh no. Titties. The two decided to head back after picking up Drada's things. Her first villain takedown was more than enough for one day, so rather than run into any more trouble while they were out, they decided hiding in HQ until patrol time was probably the best idea. On the way, Tim gave Drada a lecture on how to act should the situation rise again, including not being fussy on where she has to get changed, leaving your bag somewhere easy to get again, and the suggestion to practice getting changed into her hero costume at home so she can be quicker when the time comes. No, it's rather innocent. Drada just does not give any fucks. There are no lewd scenes in these books. One, I can't read that kind of stuff on YouTube. I will get banned very quick. I don't know how quickly, because I mean most of the YouTube rules I imagine are for showing that kind of thing, but I don't want to tempt fate with that kind of stuff. So I have refused some books that I've been offered to read because they've had yabai scenes in them. Also, I would feel generally very uncomfortable reading them on the internet. Yeah, nah. No lewd to be expected. Maybe some smooches, but no lewd. Just innocent quizzes. Maybe some illegal hand holding. We don't know. Legal. She was baffled by the idea of having to practice changing clothes quickly. Yeah, nope. Game of nope. But changing clothes quickly, it made sense, but it was one of those practicalities you never thought of when you thought of heroes. In TV or in the comic books, the heroes could either magically transform or they were just able to change in a jump cut or a panel change. It was just odd to think this was a skill needed outside of musical theatre. They got to the building and up the elevator where they were ambushed by Trish. Rosa! She called, darting over. Rosa, love, that was perfect. Your performance was perfect. And you are getting all the right reactions on social media. Well done. Tim smiled at her and Drada just looked confused. At least I didn't embarrass myself for nothing. She gave a lopsided smile. Embarrassed? Trish waved her off. Love, you were wonderful. The internet is abuzz with questions about you, and that's what we wanted. The fact that you ended the fight so quickly leaves the world with basically no information as to your power. Has started your image off perfectly. The mysterious and powerful Moon Girl has arrived, she declared, practically dancing. I know you're excited, Trish, but Rosa just had to face her first villain and first public appearance. You mind giving her some space? Exactly. The internet's like, new things. Tim came to the rescue of a tired Drada. Oh gosh, sorry. She stopped. You go chill out and get ready for your patrol, okay? With that, she left. She left to the chaos that was the pref's office, no doubt talking to magazines and reporters about the new hero. Thanks. Drada gave Tim a small smile as he led to the relaxation area with the TVs and the sofas. She can be a bit much at times, he shrugged. Drada plopped herself on the sofa and Tim went to the vending machine. Want anything? He asked. Do we have to pay for those? She asked, still not sure how payment worked for this job. Does she get money monthly or something? No, company does. Just use your security card on them. He told her, getting his out ready. She nodded. Water, please. Sure. For only a few moments, there was nothing but a bit of mechanical beeping. And Drada closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I best get used to this. Okay, we need the American accent back again. American. Congrats, newbie! She knew the voice of the younger Wilder, Pandora, but Drada peeled open a blue eye anyway. How do you do it? Drada asked. Huh? The blue-haired girl tilted her head a moment, but then smiled when she realised, yeah, I have two American accents. Two American characters. A pair of sisters. So, I've been attempting American accents. American. Embarrassing ourselves all the time? It's not a great American accent. It's gonna get butchered. In those outfits and stuff? With the phrases and stuff? Dreda had to admit she was surprised the younger Wilder guessed it. She could have been talking about anything. Yeah, she said, opening both eyes and sitting up, only now realizing her body was stiff. The blue-haired girl giggled and came to sit by her. You get used to it. Fine. You finally get it through your head that no one realizes it's you, so what does it matter? There's a lot to get used to with this job, Dreda nodded. Just a bit. Anyway, Dreda stopped her a minute when she realized. Where's Tim? He was nowhere to be found. There was an unopened bottle of water in front of her, which she grabbed out of a puddle of condensation to find it was quite warm. He's on patrol, she answered simply. But we weren't supposed to go on patrol for another few hours, Rosa questioned, confused. Pandora smiled. You were asleep. They were going to wake you up, but Tim and Claire said that you had some drama beforehand, and with your debut and everything, they reckoned you had a long enough day. So Tim went on patrol and on his own, and you can go home. That last one. Home. Huh. Dreda blinked away sleepiness and looked at the clock. It was, in fact, 6 p.m. An hour after their patrol was supposed to start. Oh, shit, I must have been out of it. You were. Lanny was this close to drawing all over your face in permanent marker. Pandora made a very small gap between her fingers. What stopped her? And how did she even manage to sleep through it? Selena. The younger Wilder answered like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Anyway, I did wake you up for a reason. There's a phone call you need to take. You need to go to Trish's office. Remind me to thank her later. Dreda got to her feet, wondering what the phone call could be. Who would want to call her? Where's your sister? She asked. On a date. The younger sister didn't look amused, and Dreda just nodded, wondering if it was anything serious. Anyway, get moving, Sleeping Beauty. Trish will brief you on it. Pandora jumped up and made a shooing motion. Right, I'm going. Rosa put her hands up and left. She gave a yawn as she opened the bottle of water and took a few gulps. Who the hell would want to talk to her? Would Tim be okay on his own? Who was Selena on a date with? Her sleepy brain didn't want to sit still, it seemed. Tim would be fine on his own. He is the more experienced hero, even if he isn't the most experienced fighter. And Selena, since when was it her business? What she should be worried about is this caller. She knocked on the door of the messiest private office in the world, and Trish opened the door with a smile. How are you feeling? She asked. Better after a nap. Dreda gave her a small smile, and Trish's face brightened. Good. Now you can go home after this, but it seems one of the police who are investigating the jewelry theft from today have called. She invited Dreda in and cleared a chair for her. Castor had most of the missing jewels on him, but there are still some unaccounted for. They've assured me that you're not a suspect, but since you never went near the shop, but one of the detectives believes that you will give them a lead? Right, so how do we handle this? Dreda asked. One of two ways. Either send you over in your uniform to talk to them personally, which, don't worry, we aren't doing, or we get a phone call with the same voice changer applied. She explained. Dreda nodded again as Trish buzzed around, making room to move the phone to beside the seat she was in. Yeah. The detective who wants to talk to you is Detective Mattis Lawson. We deal with him a lot. He's fair, so don't worry. He's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about with him unless you have done something wrong. She explained as she picked up the phone and dialed. Just ask for him, okay, and answer his questions. That's it. She offered her the phone. All right, Dreda nodded. Taking the phone, trying to put on her moon girl persona. It was hard outside the suit. It was hard to stop being Dreda and be someone else, but wasn't given too much time to prepare when the dial tone abruptly stopped. I-1 Police Department, came a man on the other end. It's Moon Girl. Detective Mattis Lawson requested to talk to me, Dreda said, trying to keep her voice as flat as possible. Oh, Moon Girl, you were pretty awesome today. I'll put you right through. Dreda went a bit red at the compliment, and after a few moments of classical music, a much gruffer male voice took over the phone. Moon Girl, right? He asked. Yes. Dreda responded simply. I assume you've been briefed on why I called you. You assume I can give you a lead on some unaccounted goods that were taken in today's incident, she confirmed. Indeed. He gave a pause. It's a hunch, but watching over the news report, there's a moment where I think you realize something. You start looking around after the reporter starts talking to Hack. Mind if I ask why? The heat. Dreda spoke, knowing exactly what he meant. There was a strange heat in the air all of a sudden. Most probably thought it was from the fight or from the camera crew, but I have felt that heat before. Oi! You've been back like, what, an hour? Back 5 minutes and you're already bombing me. Don't make me get that reverse Uno out. Oi! I can't stand the writer one. No, we can't be doing that. Don't make me get that reverse Uno out. I still have it. I still have it here, you know. You're nice. Stupid dinosaur. Meh. A heat? Where have you felt it before? He pushed for more information. She didn't remember at the time, but now her mind had time to rest and calm down. She could recall where she had felt the heat before. I knew a trickster once who was very good with fire. They could create heat mirages to shift perspectives or hide themselves. I remember that heat from when they used that power, she answered. Heat mirage? You tricksters sure do make interesting things. Are you still in contact with said trickster? If she was, he would expect some hesitation. He would expect that it would probably be someone she cared about, in this case, and would try to protect them. He was relieved not to hear any hesitation when she answered, No, I lost contact with them 3 years ago. 3 years? That's You keep repeating my phrases, detective. This is all the information I can give you. Dreda wasn't sure this was the right thing, but she didn't want him asking more about 3 years ago. There was quiet on the other end of the phone before there was a sigh. Oh, there's a fly. Go away, fly. I got it. It's fine. It's out the way. Right. He seemed to agree. Thank you for the information, then. Good luck with the heroing, Moon Girl. With that, the line shut off and at Dreda's end. Good luck indeed, Dreda, Mattis said as he hung up the phone with a smile on his face. There was a fly in the house, but it did fly away. He shook his head, swung his feet off his desk, and opened his door. Mike, get the tech department on some infrared gear. And with that done, Dreda wandered home. She opened the door, threw a meal in the microwave, fed Snickers, and relaxed. And so ended her first eventful day as Moon Girl. Chapter 9, History. So I went through a lot of the inspirations of that chapter while I was doing it. So I don't really have anything extra to say about it. We have the fun little comic book bit where I got to sneak in something that's entirely true and people who don't know watch what it is. Backstories. And I feel like if no, I'm not going to say anything more about it because that just makes it more obvious which one was true. So I can't tell you. So we're just going to get on with it. The next day at HQ, Dreda looked all around, but there was no sign of her partner in crime. Yes, they didn't have to go on patrol until the afternoon, but they still had to be on standby in case something happened. Frowning, she went to the library to ask Claire, since she couldn't even kill time with Selena, as the Wilders were on patrol. "Hey, Claire," she greeted the brunette, who looked up from her book with a smile. Tim said he had some things to do this morning. He'll be in a bit later." Claire answered the question written all over Dreda's face. "Oh." She nodded, wondering what to do in the meantime. "Rosa?" Claire crashed her train of thought. "Do you mind if we speak about that something 3 years ago?" Honestly, yes, she did mind. Dreda did not want to talk about that time, but it was only fair she heard Claire out, at least. "Fine," she said reluctantly, and Claire led her to the same private room where she burst Tim's bubble on the subject. "I don't know if you read the file in the end, and I don't know you're even unsure about knowing more about and I know you're even unsure about knowing more about what happened, but I thought you should know I've been looking into it since. And after Tim found out, he's obviously been looking into it too. In fact, he's chasing up a lead today." Claire told her, and Dreda's stomach started to turn, thinking about it again. She saw Claire take a breath, ready to talk again, but she put her hand up. "Stop," she said. "If you're asking me to help you find more information, then, at least for now, no." "I'm sorry for bringing it up," Claire said, walking over and putting a hand on the small woman's shoulder, trying her best to comfort the look of pain on Dreda's face. "I just thought it would only be fair to offer you a chance to help." "I understand," Dreda nodded, "but I'm just not ready. I want to stop them. I don't want those things to happen to anyone ever again, but it means facing it, and I'm just..." Claire pulled her into a full embrace as Dreda took deep breaths to try to calm herself down again. "Don't worry, that's fine. Take your time. You can help when you're ready," she said, softly. They stayed there for a while, Claire rubbing up and down on Dreda's back as she took comfort in Claire's presence. Dreda had to admit she loved Claire for this. No one had really shown her the kind of care Claire did. No one hugged her when she was sad, reassured her when she was unsure. No one looked after Dreda. Miss Miggins always did what she could, but she was very old, and Dreda looked after her as much as she did Dreda. Claire, though, she was like the mother Dreda never had. She could never have been more thankful for her favourite hero's existence. What ruined this wonderful moment, though, was the room suddenly flashing red. "What the?" Dreda looked around as Claire suddenly let go of her. "You remember reading about a code red, right?" Claire prompted as Dreda remembered urgency flooded her. Code red. All hero quarters are fitted with a red light that would flash when a code red is happening. A code red was a major threat to the city, something that would take more than the patrol heroes to solve. It was like a scramble alarm for firemen, but this could only be called if the potential for damage was great. In the event of a code red, heroes would report to the media office for further instruction. "Come on." Claire took her hand and led her straight out to the media office, where the massive TV showed their code red. There had been a breakout. There hasn't been a breakout. Oh wait, I know who this is. I forgot. There hasn't been a breakout in a while, said a bleach blonde man as he tilted his head. No, there hasn't, Claire nodded. On the TVs, there were a number of news channels showing the Iwan prison. There was fire and explosions turning the sky black with smoke. Tim's already there and the Wilders are en route, Trish said in a very commanding voice. The rest of you need to suit up now. We're going to get you there by helicopter, where you will try to recapture as many prisoners as you can before they get away. Right, came a call from Claire and two of the men in the room, and they darted off. Explosions! Yeah. Explosion. Tim's already there? Drada asked. Apparently he was there when it happened, Trish shrugged. We can quiz him on it later. Right now, you need to get moving, Moon Girl. The small woman barked in her face, and Drada scrambled away, being very surprised that the short woman could suddenly turn into an army general. But also wondering about Tim. If he was following up a lead on what happened to her, then what led him to the prison? She was nervous to find out, so she got changed as fast as she could. In truth, what led him to the prison was a bit of a long shot, as well as an obligation he never liked doing. He sadly had to leave his frigid hat costume outside when he entered the prison, since the pointed shoulders would get him in trouble. With his gear hidden well enough in a bush outside, he headed into the prison. He was patted down to make sure he didn't have any weapons and given a load of questions as to why he was visiting and who he was visiting, all accompanied by smiles of sympathies and apologies for having to put him through all this stuff again. He eventually found himself. Oh, hello! It was supposed to be tomorrow, Mehdi, but unfortunately I had a bit of a change in my weekend schedule and I am unable now to stream tomorrow at my usual time. So I moved it forward because I still wanted to stream this weekend and this was one of my few free slots to do it in. I know I'm a super successful Ruinous streamer, aren't I? I can't even believe how well those streams have gone, honestly. Although I do kind of expect as soon as I stop streaming Ruiner that all my numbers are going to go straight back down, but it's fine. If even a few people who started on the Ruiner streams stay and keep watching, then that's all we can hope for. I am one of the best Ruiner streamers. Oh, thank you. Wait until I hit the difficulty wall, then question whether I'm a good Ruiner streamer or not after that, okay? Anyway. He eventually found himself waiting in a waiting room with others here to visit prisoners. It was mostly one in, one out, but Tim had to just wait for his name. A name he didn't get to use very often. Lucas Mayer, his real name. He went to the door and walked into the room where visitors spoken to a phone to a prisoner on the other side. Tuesdays, bro. The second awkward day of the week. Lucas walked over to the only empty, cold stool he could see and smirked at the man on the other side, trying not to laugh. The same weirdly bright blue eyes as his closed as the man with the slicked-back dark hair took the ridicule of the fact that he couldn't hold the communication phone since both his arms were broken. So the prison guard had taped it to his head. I love that image. Took the ridicule that the phone... Couldn't hold the phone. Both his arms were broken. It was taped to his head. Yeah. Poor Apex. Tim picked up the phone to talk to what the world knew as Apex Illusionist, master of the sense of sight, but to him was something quite different. Hey, Dad, he said flatly. Hello, Lukey. Apex, or Edric Mayer, addressed his son. Bit early for a usual after-court visit, isn't it? I normally have to sit around for at least a month before you see fit to see me. It was true. Tim would beat him up, throw him in jail, and a month later see how he was doing. He felt he had to, and honestly he hoped he'd visit him and one day there would have been some magical cure to his insanity, but no such luck yet. Even though it was partly his fault his father snapped long ago, and even if it hurt, Tim didn't want to think he couldn't get his dad back one day. But that's not what he was here to talk about. I wanted to ask you something. He got straight to the point. Have you ever heard of something called Project Trickster? I have played Minecraft before, yes I have. I'm not very good at it. I've played it with friends, obviously not on stream or anything, and I get really lost. I have a terrible sense of direction. And Minecraft is horrible. I have a really bad habit of getting lost in mines. I'm also terrible with the dark, so I get really easily spooked while down in the mines as well. And then I have no creativity when it comes to the creative side of it either. When I put my mind to making something in Minecraft, it always comes out looking ugly AF. It never comes out how I think it's gonna look. My friends can make such pretty things and I'm just like, oh hey, look at my shitty house. I would have to look up and do lots of research, I think, before I could ever look at Minecraft. I'm not very good at it. But I can see why you think I would. If I give like the chill streamer vibes, then Minecraft's normally a good one to go for. If I studied, maybe I could master it, but not. Yeah. He gave a small smile. Where'd you find out about that, Lukey? Honestly, Tim was surprised. He didn't expect his father to know anything. What do you know? He pushed. One of my questions first, por favor. Apex leaned forward as much as the white casts would let him. Why did you come to me with this? It was a good question. If it was because he was a villain, then Tim could have gone to anyone. Because your methods mimic that of the experiment, he answered, honestly, and Apex smiled more. Good deduction. I do use the same methods to bring out the monsters and people as they did to bring out tricks, I suppose. Apex leant back in his chair and took a breath like he was preparing to tell a story. Since you answered my question, I'll answer yours. Once upon a time, years and years, when the sweet little Lucas Mayer was 8 years old, and he was playing in the park. Tim frowned when he heard his name in the story. All the other children and parents avoided him because he was a trickster, and tricksters brought out monsters and people. Apex's face scrunched for a minute before he brought his content smile back and continued. Lucas didn't mind being alone, though. I'm pretty sure I meant at the time there. At the time, he liked to make little ice sculptures for his daddy. His daddy already had a freezer overflowing with his child's art, and... Dad, get to the point. Tim sighed, annoyed. I'm getting there. Apex smirked. One day, when Lucas played by the side of the pond, a few big scary men in suits surrounded him. The men wanted to take Lucas from Daddy. Daddy tried to stop them but was knocked down. When Lucas tried to fight him, he was knocked out. It was then, in desperation for his son, Daddy manifested his trick. In the illusions, Daddy can see into people's minds. He saw the horror that could have awaited his little Lucas. He saw Project Trickster in the illusions of the men he cut down. know, but I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I will enjoy it. I could think about it. But I could only stream twice a week. And then that's a game and a reading. So maybe, I don't think I have time, really, is the issue. It's the biggest issue for my streaming, I think. If I could full-time stream, sure, I would give Minecraft a go. But, unfortunately, twice a week is my best at the moment. Maybe 3 times if I feel like I have energy every so often, but I don't have time for the Minecraft. Tim was taken aback a minute. He was nearly in the same boat as Drader. Oh no, is there a demand for this? Maybe I'll do it as a special. Let's say... What numbers am I on? 250 and I'll do a Minecraft stream. 250 subs. I'll do a Minecraft stream. It's halfway to 500, so I think it's a good number for it. There we go. I think I do have Minecraft on my PC still, so it's not going to be hard for me to get, and I will do some studying and we'll figure it out. He had nearly been taken as a subject for Project Trickster. They kept trying to take you every few years until you got past 15. Yeah, it's only 20 more, so it's a pretty easy target for you guys to get to if you really want that stream. I take it you were out of their wanted sample by then, Apex added as a side note on the end of the epic story. Every few years. He would have asked how he never noticed, but he already knew. His dad was an illusionist. Apex never let him notice that there were people after him, so he never had to worry. Why did he have to be such a good guy at times? Do you know much about it, other than me nearly being a part of it? Tim asked him, recovering from the news. I only know the things I saw in the illusions. In the illusions their mind created. They all had big, heavy guilt. It seems they were all paid pretty handsomely for stealing and torturing children. It was government funded, so that's no surprise. Tim nodded, annoyed his father didn't seem to have any good information. Yes, but how do you think the government could cover something like that? It needs a front for it, right? Apex smirked as he watched a light bulb appear in his son's head. A business? Or even a charity front? He questioned. Charity. His father smiled at the correct answer. PAA. Prevention of all abuse. That's actually useful. Tim sat back. He now had somewhere to look. He now had a target. Thanks, he said reluctantly. I do my best. He imagined his father would have done a mock bow if it wasn't for his arms. With that, Tim went to put the phone back down. But, whoa, not so fast, Luke. Tell me about that new girlfriend of yours. Apex stopped him. What? Tim froze. What are you talking about? Moon Girl, of course, he said cheerfully. I take it she's the same nice lady who broke both of my arms. She's not my girlfriend, Dad. We just work together. Then why isn't she your girlfriend? She seems nice, and she broke both your arms. She accepts the monster she is. I like her. I love this. You are so weird. Tim sighed and slammed the phone down before his psycho father could say any more. Maybe one day, Timmy. Everyone sees it. Everyone ships it. Almost as if it was the sound of the phone that a sound of the phone made when he rammed it onto its holder. An explosion rang out and the building shook. Alarms set off. Red started flashing. The guards were flustered and started dragging prisoners back to their cells. Tim watched his dad say one last thing that, even if he didn't hear, he could clearly lip read. "See you soon, hack." He nodded and darted away himself, somewhat lucky that protocol was to get civilians out in whatever event this was. He followed the crowd out and darted to the things he left in the bush. Ship, 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 ship. HQ, he said into his communicator. "We have a code red at the prison. Probably an attempted breakout. I've heard explosions and I'm going to get more information and stop who I can from escaping." "Roger, Hack. The Wild Sisters are en route, and we're scrambling the others. Backup will be here soon," came his response. "Good luck, Hack." "Roger," he responded, and after rehiding his things, he darted back towards the prison. Look, I have said how I don't like killing my characters. And you think I would murder one of them? Oh lordy. Do we know where this is happening? He stopped and asked a guard, his voice oddly deep again with his voice changer on. "I am a coward. I love my babies, okay? Shut up." "Block F," the guard responded, and Hack darted that way. The heroes had made a point of becoming familiar with the prison's layout and keeping track of what villains were kept in each block. What worried Hack was that Block F was supposed to be where his father was kept. With it being attacked, they'd probably take him from the visitor room to Block G. The commotion is focused on Block F, he called into HQ as he darted past the guards taking his father away. "Roger," came the reply as he tried to think who else was in Block F. I love the theories. Hack skidded to a halt when a wall of the corridor in front of him exploded out, scattering plaster and dust. He stood ready for whatever came through. What stepped through the hole in the wall was a tall man clad in a breastplate, gauntlets, and a rounded helmet of dust-covered silver armor. The black visor looked around, and he saw a faint smile under the black veil that hid anything below his nose. That's a mistake. Let's see if I have a picture of this. I should be digging up some of these more pictures that I've got, because I've drawn a lot, just because I like drawing. But it's whether I have specific pictures. Bum, bum, ba, da, ma, camera. No, I don't think I do have a picture of this one specifically, but I'd like to just keep searching for a minute, because I'll have a picture of another villain that's going to turn up, and it's very good. Oh, this is, so the person who drew my original cover, drew this for me. Remember that scene we just had? She's wonderful. I love it. Miwa Chiu. So if you ever want to look her up, she did some wonderful little doodles for me. It's great. What other ones do we have? We have Claire. This is a picture of Claire. But she's not relevant right now. I'm trying to find a specific one, but I can't find it. Where are all my pictures? I really do. I need to organize things a bit better. Oh, I have like an overall villain thing, I guess. I could show off like all the villains at once. I will do that later. There we go. I found one that's good. We'll save it for a bit though. Okay, it's ready. Anyway. Looks like we have our first hero. Came a completely distorted but clearly male voice. Who the hell are you and what do you want here? Hack snapped on guard and ready. Arendite? A woman walked from behind him, her footsteps fire glowing in golden armor that covered her torso and shoulders. A black veil covered her face, red velvet cut in patterns of fire falling around her waists. Her weights? Past me! Learn to edit. Her waist. That's what it's supposed to be. We don't have time to play, she scolded the tall man. Right, Arendite sighed. Find the illusionist. They were after his father. Apex, I take it. An ice lance formed, and the air got cold. I won't let you get to him. Hack barked at them. Words are hard, especially when you've got like a whole ass book of them. Hack threw the two lances their way, but the woman moved forward, and there was a blast of suffocating heat. The ice met a wall of oxygen-sucking fire and melted them to nothing but water. I'm sorry, Frigid Hack, but there's nothing you can do here, the fire trickster declared. Hack gritted his teeth. Honestly, she was right. There wasn't much he could do against a fire trickster of her caliber. Their elemental matchup just didn't go in his favor. But that didn't mean he couldn't punch her in her veiled face. He made two ice lances and threw them, taking a page out of Drader's book, a move he'd seen her do in the test. With the fire trickster focused on stopping one lance, he darted forward and threw the other, making a few other smaller ice knives to throw to keep the trickster off on her toes as he cleared the distance between them. After three of the smaller ice knives, he made a last lance, and the distance was cleared. Fire engulfed her hands, and the trickster went to throw the fire his way, but he ducked and skidded behind her, using the lance to take out her feet. She saw it coming. But she didn't jump over the lance, she jumped on it. It melted as her fiery feet touched it, and she turned, gathering a bunch of flame. Hack tried to scramble to his feet, having fought enough tricksters to be able to predict what some moves would do. The trickster had pulled her hands back and taken the moment he needed to get his balance back to charge. Ugh, I'm really struggling right now. Now that's a sentence. For most tricksters, this would be an attack. That would mean a long and powerful blast. It meant you probably planned on roasting the hallway they were in. He needed cover, but with his balance off, it wasn't likely he'd find it and get there before being incinerated. So, instead, he left himself fall. Sat up and focused his power too. As she threw out a funnel of fire, he threw up a wall of ice and poured his power into it to try keep it from melting too quickly. It should have become a battle of wills from that point, but it didn't. Tim was not winning this and was just trying to hold out, hoping that she ran out of steam before he did. He'd already realized that at this point the woman must have had a trick level to rival his, to be able to hold the seemingly never-ending flames this long. I don't know. I did not get your pun. It went over my head. Apologies. Fire tricksters would give him trouble, but lower trick levels meant his ice could hold up a bit better. At this point, they couldn't. Fire was starting to find its way through his protective barrier, and without it even touching him, he could feel it starting to burn his outstretched hands. Shit, he hissed, doing what he could, but sadly, that was nothing. His ice gave way, and he felt the heat rip over him, but then he heard something else. A loud bass sound blasted the fires away, and he opened his eyes to a typical hero entrance of Wild Beat. Oh no, we gotta bring the American accent out again. Boom! I made her quite southern before, and I think that kind of helped. American. She walked in, arm outstretched and fingers making a gun at the fire trickster. Wild Beat here to beat the shit out of you. So, fun thing for this, I did some research before writing this scene to see if sound could actually blast away fire. And I found a video of someone who actually did make a fire extinguisher from a speaker, basically. It was quite cool. I highly suggest people research that. Yeah, what? Why are you calling me Missy all the time? Mehdi. Yeah, it's a thing. Blacked out sunglasses, a green suit with black on the sides, and shorts that left a bit of pale leg leading down to badass biker boots. Wild Beat faced the fire trickster with a grin. Ooh, I probably have a picture of Wild Beat. Do I have a picture? Do I have a picture? Oh, here it is. Meow, there she is. Yeah, it was like I kind of knew the theory of it. It made sense that with sound being sound waves, etc. But I really wanted to research it beforehand. I didn't want to write that and like it not be real. But that's Wild Beat, everyone. Theoretically, yes, if you scream at them. A cowboy accent is the only American accent I can do, okay, toddling statesman. You have to forgive me on that, okay? Yeah, thank you. Tim had to wonder if the Wilders just enjoyed their hero personas now, because there were no cameras right now for her to show off to. Wild Beat, said the deadpan female voice. That's what I said. And you are? The Wilder got ready for a fight. You'll know me as... Fire started to trail around her arms as she readied her attack. Excalibur. Fire flew at her and Pandora darted forward, throwing the flames off course with blasts of bass. She went to use a signature move, Party Pummel. A punch with a blast of bass that sent villains through walls, but it seemed Excalibur had heard of it as she dodged forward, quickly getting behind Pandora to get out of the way of the shotgun-like blast. Tim began to see why Selena wore headphones when she was fighting with her sister. Speaking of which, he got up and looked around. Outside the hole in the wall Arendite made, he could see Wild Warrior was there in her own battle. Wild Warrior was one of the few heroes with a weapon. She span a double-ended scythe, each end carved with a pink W. It matched her pink outfit, which was shamefully close to what she normally wore, with a black waistcoat her sister normally wore, and a very low-cut pink vest she normally wore. A pair of tight-fitting black pants with why did I have like normally wore like 3 times? What are you doing past me? Jesus Christ. Ow. Physical pain. I have a picture of Wild Warrior somewhere too, looking very cool. I swear I have it somewhere. Somewhere in my files. Because I have some bookmarks with her on. She's an edgy girl. She's edgy. Big tittied edgy lady. Oh, I'm sad I can't find that. So this one will do. It's not fully colored in, but I basically am. No, that's not offensive. I like audiobooks. Audiobooks are great. So I'm happy to be your audiobook for the evening. This is Wild Warrior. Obviously, this is not a fully colored in version, and her hand is weirdly small, but hey ho. Coloring be coloring, my friends. But this is Wild Warrior. This is Selena. Looking cool. I do have a full picture of her with a scythe somewhere, but I can't find it right now, so you're just gonna live with that. She's very cool. She's very cool. A pair of tight-fitting pink pants with black on each side met another pair of badass boots. Her opponent was in a wispy blue outfit, a long coat, loose trousers, and a small belly-revealing top underneath. The girl's mask was like a painting, striped in blue and white. She fought like Lanny, with another with an air-based trick, dodging the powerful swings Wild Warrior was throwing in ways that could only be achieved with a little help from nature. She's definitely the coolest sister. Pandora wishes she was that cool. It's always the way. On the other side of him was another hole in the wall, no doubt where Arendite went. Tim set off in pursuit. Multiple high-powered villains, he reported. Wild Warriors in combat with a wind trickster. Beaters in combat with a fire trickster. I'm pursuing a third. They seem to be after Apex. Sounds suave to sound American. That's not how Americans sound to me. That's for sure. Do you think there's any more? He was surprised to hear the slightly distorted voice of Claire respond. They must have been on their way. I don't know, he responded. All right, me, Moon, Light Tiger, and Midnight are inbound. ETA 3 minutes, and no doubt Dart will see this and get here herself. Hold on until we get there, Claire told him. Right, see you soon. With that, they hung up. And with that, I took a drink, because, you know, drinks. Yeah, that did sound a bit more insulting than I intended it to be. I'm sorry. I have an evil laugh? Do I? Oh no. Oh no. I do have a habit of doing that. I'll say something and not really realize how insulting it is until someone reacts to it and I'm like, oh yeah, that was bad, right? I'm very good at that. Very good at that. a skill. It's an art form. Dreda couldn't stop staring at the suited up Claire. She was sitting next to her hero. She was about to go into a fight alongside her hero. Fight alongside Mist Paragon in her hooded robe of grey with swirls of purple. Oh, I definitely have a picture of this one. Yeah. If I can find it. Hope we can find it. Yeah, here she is! Boop-doo, Mist Paragon! In her hood. She's got a very comfy outfit. Honestly, I would be happy to fight crime in this. Please ignore the fact that her hands are fucked up, because who can draw hands correctly? But Mist Paragon in her very comfy outfit. In swirls of purple, her grey mask sat between locks of hair that cascaded down the sides of her face, her smart grey trousers with swirls of purple round her ankles. Get your head in the game, fangirl! Scolded the bleach blonde man from before, now clad entirely in white. A vest top and baggy trousers with boots that looked straight out of an army supply store. The entire suit was covered in black stripes, and his mask had curved ears. He was Light Tiger, a trickster with enhanced agility and strength and able to make lights brighter, sometimes enough to blind or burn opponents if the situation was right. Or at least that's what it said on his file. Resonates through your entire... In a good way? Does it resonate in a good way? Does it make the brain go brr? Do I unlock serotonin? In that kind of way? I don't know what to make of that whole phrase. Let's see, I have a picture of a Light Tiger. I should do. I've drawn most of my heroes at least once. But it's just a case of finding them. Will I add these illustrations? No. I did originally draw some of these illustrations with intentions of adding them to the book, but honestly, they're not that good. I know they might seem good, but I'm not that good an artist. I'm not professional grade. I think I would need to study up a bit more and perfect them more before I could. Oh, here's another picture of Miss. Another Miss Paragon picture. But yeah, they're not... I drew them, yes. These are all my drawings that I'm showing you. Dropbox. I know there's a picture of Light Tiger somewhere. I know there is. He's a good boy and he deserves pictures. No! God damn it. Fudge nuggets. Oh well, no picture of Light Tiger. It's very annoying. I have enough skill in drawing that it looks nice to people who probably don't know, like haven't studied, I guess, is the way to put it. It feels like you're traveling back in time and getting weekly TV episodes. Aw. I love weekly TV episodes. It's the best thing because I get to spend time theorizing what's gonna happen next. I'm not a binge watcher, so it's perfect for me. And I hope you're enjoying your weekly Moon Girl episodes. Yeah, I think I finished the whole page now. Right, Dreda nodded. Where is Lanny anyway? School, answered a man with pitch black long hair falling past his shoulders, in an old-style suit with a coat of red and shirt of white. Coat of red. I changed that. I definitely changed that. Nice theory, okay? On his face sat a white opera mask. Midnight, a strange trickster whose ability change depended on the time of day. At midnight he was at his most powerful. At noon, he was at his weakness, and his abilities were normally strength and agility boosts and shadow manipulation. Right now, it was about 9:30. Midnight was not going to be very strong right now, but he was here anyway to help where he could, even if it was limited. Luke, you realise there's 4 books out of this so far? 4. Two minutes later, they arrived. Unsurprised that news crews had beat them to it, their helicopter started its descent. Stick with me for now, Moon Girl, until we get to Hack. I'll act as your mentor. Claire spoke before taking off the headphones they used to communicate over the loud noise of the helicopter. Drada tried to follow suit. The 4 heroes prepared. Drada nodded and followed suit. She didn't try, she did follow suit. The 4 heroes prepared to disembark the helicopter when suddenly it started going out of control. What are they about if she dies? What the? The pilot panicked and did what he could, but they knew there was nothing to be done. The helicopter had been grabbed by long tendrils of black energy that were pulling it down at an alarming rate. "I've got the pilot," Tiger stated the obvious, as he was the only one with the balance to be able to get to the cockpit and grab the pilot while the whole thing was shaking. "Oh no, you have to go! Aw, well, have a nice day. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you turning up. Yeah, have a good day. Yeah." After being told that the other 3 heroes jumped from the helicopter onto the roof of the prison, which was pretty close after being dragged so far, Tiger had jumped out to the ground below and run as fast as he could away with the pilot before the helicopter landed behind them and exploded into rubble and fire. The blast threw him forward, and Tiger rolled, ending up on his back, and the pilot ended up a few meters away. "You okay?" He tilted his head back as far as it would go to ask the shocked but seemingly unharmed pilot. Yeah, she stuttered. "Awesome!" With that, Tiger jumped to his feet and darted into the prison. Mist Paragon, Midnight, and Moon Girl got their balance after the jump, and Drada looked back to see the dark energy pull down the helicopter. The 3 covered their ears for the incoming explosion. She didn't like that she recognized these tendrils. She didn't like that at all. "And you are?" she heard Claire, turning her attention to the man standing on the roof, lowering his arms after using his trick. "Khan Wenan." The smartly dressed villain with a red demonic mask bowed. "Do I have the picture of Khan? Do I? Do I, 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 do?" I have a group photo of the villains that I can't show you just yet, but I might have the Khan Wenan picture. But does it have it might have a spoiler on it. No, I don't. Oh well. There's a lot of people watching the Ruiner stream, I know. It's my only they're my only ones to get up to 3 digits without assistance from a viewer that may or may not have done a thing on my Pokemon stream at one point. But they have naturally just been shooting up. It's crazy. And the likes are good, the comments on the other one's good. It's all very good. It's all very good. It's exciting. Exciting times. That's why I'm playing it more often. Normally, I would play something once every 2 weeks. But Ruiner's been going so well, I decided to play it once a week. Yeah. The smartly dressed villain in a red demonic mask bowed. "But I understand that can be a bit of a mouthful. You can call me Khan if you wish." Drada watched him show off and couldn't help the bad feeling. the doubts she had. She knew this person, even with his voice distorted. "Midnight," Claire whispered to the Dark Hero. "We'll deal with him. You go round up what prisoners you can." He nodded, and with a look Drada's way, the three broke off into a run. Midnight ran to the entrance of the building, and Drada and Claire ran towards Khan. You think splitting up won't mean I can? He went to cockily use his dark energy to take out all three, but a small gas grenade went off at his feet, and with a hiss, his view was taken away, his target's locations now unknown. Gritting his teeth, he waited. So, a lovely little little thing on the small gas grenade. So the reason there's a small gas grenade is it's part of Claire's equipment. But the reason she uses it here is because at this point in writing, I had no idea what Claire's power was. I was just writing, and I didn't need to know it at this point. She never had to use it at this point, so I hadn't thought of it yet. So that's why this is here. Because I was like, oh, Mist Paragon, she needs fog, right? Gas grenades, there we go. But I didn't know what her actual powers were at this point. Therefore, you don't either. That's how good of an author planner I am. Drada burst through the smoke. Even if he was or wasn't the person she was thinking of, he at least had the same trick, and she knew how to deal with it. The trickster she knew with this kind of power had an invisible circle around them that his dark tendrils of energy came from. The energy could attack stuff outside, but it was awkward, and the trickster had to worry about not hitting themselves, so it was safest to stay close as possible to these kind of darkness tricksters as possible. So safe. I added the as possible here. That's why it came out wrong. I didn't write an as possible. I just put it in. Lots of writer problems. This is a reader problem of me assuming that I put an as possible in when I didn't. Problem was, staying at that distance didn't leave much room to move. She landed just behind him and kicked him in the back, throwing him forward and annoyingly moving that invisible circle away. So she had to follow him, not giving him time to recover, and jumped on his back. He hit the ground with the force of her weight, and before he could struggle his way out, she pulled his arms around his back, restrained him. Also, this little circle thing, you can blame Bleach for that. Byakuya Kuchiki, when he had his fight with the Fullbringers, revealed a weakness that he can't actually use his powers very well inside a set circle because he hits himself. And that's the idea I used for this. Yay! Huh? Was his response as the smoke cleared. Claire stood stunned a moment, expecting to have to get in on the fight. A second smoke grenade ready in her hand, but it seemed Drada had everything under control. "Knock him out and catch up to me, Moon," she told her, and made her way to the entrance. Midnight had already disappeared through. Drada pulled Khan's head up to smash it against the ground, enough to knock him out. But he said something. "I've been beaten like this before. And there aren't many with a combat level high enough to pull that off." Combat level. Drada's blood ran cold. After I've completed 10k books, I don't know. We'll find out when we get there, I guess. Who knows? It's a mystery. Maybe I'll just decide to stay in the library forever, because it's better than the real world. Who knows? She shouldn't have questioned her instinct. His trick, his manner, his sense of style. 1 is an accident, 2 is a coincidence, but there was 3 things about him that told her who he was. 2, she whispered, wanting so badly to be asked what she was talking about, wanting so badly for him not to understand. Good to see you, 4. No. No, 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 no. She wasn't ready for this. She wasn't ready to think about it again. She wasn't ready to be reminded of it. She wasn't ready. She couldn't. It couldn't be real. She was pulled from her thoughts as she was pulled off him. Her back hit the ground as he straddled her. I don't want to read Berserk's manga, that is for sure. I have heard enough about how dark Berserk is that I do not want to get into that thing. Whew. Too dark. Cannot. I know, gotta be a shock, right? It is for me too. He put an armored clawed hand on her chin and pulled her eyes to his as he pulled his mask off enough to see half of his face. We didn't really know what happened to you. We were really worried. No. Trader could only whisper as her body shook and her eyes started to become wet with tears. It couldn't be real. It couldn't be real. Yes. Yes. He laughed, spreading his fanged smile wide as he leaned down, burning his red eyes into her blue ones. We'll get to play together again, just like we used to. No. No, get off me, no! She went into extreme panic. She tried to get free, desperate movements nearly shoving him off, but the all too familiar feeling of his cold, dark ropes pulled her back to the ground and pinned her. He leaned down on her even further. His breath tickled her cheek as he whispered into her ear, "How about we play now?" No, no, please, no! She begged. Drada sealed her eyes shut and prayed this was all a nightmare. She wasn't at the prison. There was never a breakout. 2 wasn't here. 2 wasn't here. 2 wasn't here. As he was about to take a claw to her dress, a strong gust of wind blew him off her. His binds came loose, and she rolled a bit with the force. She opened her blue eyes, then blinked them confused. No means no, came the young voice that her distortion made slightly higher. Laddie, Drada whispered, turning to look at the girl in the red coat as she landed on the roof. Oh, I definitely have pictures of Lanny, you know. Definitely have pictures of Lanny. Lanny. Here's Lanny and Drada. It makes Lanny look tall, but she's flying, just so's you knows. But that's Lanny. I have more pictures of Lanny. Lanny is one I ended up drawing a lot. Oh, here's the picture of Selena with the scythe. I found it. There we go. That's Selena with the scythe. That's the actual scythe, like the edgy lady she is. And here's another picture of Lanny being a cutie. Just flying about because she can. I didn't draw the darts and stuff on her thighs because it was a pain in the ass, so I just didn't do it. But imagine she has darts on her thighs here. Just pretend for that, okay? Just imagine it. And this is also Lanny. Da 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 da. This is when she comes to save everyone at the start. Yeah. Slight distraction. She would never be so happy to see her as she was now. Bit of a big job for your second run, rookie. She's probably a bit more chunky. I'm not the best drawer. That's all. She put her hand out for her. Thanks, Dart. Dreda tried to pull back some of her composure, her balance wavering as she got to her feet. Lanny's smile dropped a bit. Are you okay? No, Dreda answered honestly. Well, if it isn't the fairy princess ruining my fun. Khan barked angrily at them. With that, Lanny's smile disappeared, and her eyes burned into the demonically masked villain. No one calls me that, she barked at him. The winds picked up to an extreme levels, and Dreda even started to find it hard to stand. Dark, calm down, she yelled at her. Khan went to retaliate before it got too out of hand, but stopped. Well, time's up. I'll see you later, Moon Girl, he yelled over the roar of the wind. He ran off the other end of the building, and Lanny went to go after him, but Dreda grabbed the small girl. Dark, calm down. You're going to cause more damage. She barked at her. But he called me fairy princess. He has to die! She barked, struggling. Dark, no! She yelled as Khan was caught by his black energy and lowered to the ground. The earth shook and fire blasted. Slowly the winds died down. I mean, Moon Girl has the highest combat score, so if you got into a hand-to-hand fight with her, yes, 100%, she's the strongest at the moment. When it comes to throwing powers around, no, because she does not have any powers. She just is very good at fighting people, that is all. She's the Batman, minus the money, because she doesn't have money. They're gone. Lanny pouted, and Dreda breathed a sigh of relief, letting her go and falling back. It's over, she sighed, her mind going over everything, landing on her back from the sitting position she was in. For now, Lanny grumbled. Chapter 10, The Products. The products of the evil Project Twixtar. They met up with the others as HQ organised a minibus to bring them all back. Got it. Did they get him? Lanny asked when Dreda arrived with the others. Before we start this chapter, I'm going to take a small moment because it keeps getting darker here. I start this stream and it's nice and bright, and then when I keep streaming, it starts getting darker. So I need to just close my curtains and, turn the light off. Well, turn the light on, not off. Wait. Yeah, anyway, be right back. I'm back. Why is my controller in front of me? I don't know. Anyway. The light is on. I can see. I'm not going to kill my eyes in the dark this time. I did that last stream, and I actually left the room and I looked in the bathroom mirror and I had like actual panda eyes from reading in the dark. It was terrible. So we're not doing that today. We're going to look after ourselves today. Today we are doing a favor for our bodies. Anyway. Tim's not on the verge of day. Timmy's fine. Timmy's fine. Everything's fine. There are physical copies. Physical copies are available. Apparently it still has the old frickin' cover though, so I need to change that. But physical copies are available. from a lot of retailers. If you don't like Amazon, there's many, many others. It took a few moments for her to remember what Lanny was talking about. The reason two had been there in the first place. For some odd reason, they had been there to take Apex Illusionist. It seems so, Claire spoke. Aw, we lost. Fair enough. Then get up and turn your light on. Easy peasy. You're on the phone. The phone can come with you. I had to go to my light and my window, which is too far away, and then I would look weird on the stream if I did it. Look after yourself, Maddie. It was... Oh, wait. My American's back. American. Fair enough. There's links in the description. Although, I suppose I should update my website links. I will do that. It was one hell of a party, though. Selena smiled, none of them without a scratch or a bruise, except Lanny, who was late. Yo, Hack! Your student is here. Oh wait, no, that isn't Selena talking, that's Tiger. Tiger's still British, it's fine. Well, I say British. I won't say he doesn't exist. It's just that I am innately British, and I cannot help my Britishisms. Yo, Hack, your student is here. Aren't you gonna say hello? Tiger flicked Hack, only to get punched in the face. Fuck off, he snapped, as Tiger recoiled from the shot. That was uncalled for. Midnight looked at him. I know we lost, but just leave me alone, he hissed. No. Look after yourself starting today. Starting now! Very much now. You got nothing to say to him? Pandora turned to Drada, who shook her head. She wasn't even questioning Tim's actions right now, as she thought over what happened. The others started talking about their fights, and her chest hurt with every villain mentioned. I saved Hack from this powerful file-wielding chick who called herself Excalibur, said Pandora. Product 1. We ran into this man who could use some kind of dark energy who called himself Khan Wenan, said Claire. Product 2. Is this Selena talk? No, it's Midnight, okay. Just had to check if I had to do the accent first. I ended up running into a very tall man with a strong connection to the earth that called himself Arendite, said Midnight. Product 3. I ended up tangoing with this woman on the same wind power level as Nanny. It was pretty fun. She called herself Pywin, said Selena. Product 5. I ran into this kid who I think could use illusion? I think. It was hard to tell. He said he was Galantine, said Tiger. Product 6. And this is again really weird because I hadn't pinned down what his abilities were yet. I knew there was going to be some weirdness to it, but I hadn't quite pinned it down and decided yet. But it wasn't that important, so who cares, right? Drata held herself tight as she could, her body shaking. She didn't even notice the minivan arrive. The others had been too busy gossiping about the new villains and theorizing about their plan. Tim had been too busy worrying about his father to notice how bad Drata was struggling. Come on, Moon. Claire looked around as she was about to get on the van and stopped when she finally saw her. Moon? Moon? Selena went to go to her, and Tim too, but Claire pushed them back. I'll try to talk to her. You guys go back. With that, she closed the door on more than a few worried faces and led Drada somewhere quiet, where they could talk without worry. Claire pulled down her hood and took off her mask. Drada pulled down her mask and took off her goggles, allowing the tears to fall down her face. What happened? Claire asked, putting arms around her. I think at this point, before we get into that dramatic scene, I can show you the group picture of the products. We've got, this is Galantine on the left. I realize you can't actually see my cursor because I made it that way. But going from left to right, we've got Galantine, Arendite, Excalibur, Conwenan, and Pywen. I was very happy with their designs. They were very fun to draw. What happened? Claire asked, putting arms around her. I know them, Drada whispered out. Excalibur is product 1, Khan is product 2, Arendite is product 3, Pywen is product 5, Galantine is product 6. She choked out their names, then buried her face in a stunned Claire as her sobs racked her uncontrollably. You're sure? Claire asked, not wanting to believe her. The products, for 3 years, had been people she wanted to save, but now... Was she too late? I'm sure, Drada cried. 2 recognize my fighting style. They know Moon Girl is product 4. Calm down. They don't know the new identity you were given, so you're still safe. Claire quickly put her own worry aside and stroked Drada's hair to try soothe her. You're not product 4 anymore. You're Rosa Hale. You're Moon Girl. I spelled Hale wrong! Fuck! Drada nodded, but the tears didn't stop. She couldn't stop the memories. She wasn't ready for this. She wasn't ready to face this again. She clung onto Claire like her life depended on it, trying to push the suffocating storm of emotions away, trying as hard as she could to listen to her whispers of reassurance, that was so quiet in the echoes of her past. Her mind remembered more than she ever wanted to, the good and the bad. One being the best sister she could ever ask for, but being forced to burn Drada. 3 being the nicest guy you could ever met, but being forced to crush Drada. 5 always being able to put a smile on her face, but being forced to suffocate Drada. 6 always making a game out of everything, but being forced to torture Drada's mind. 2 would help teach Drada her English and maths when she struggled, even read to her when she couldn't, but then enjoyed what he was forced to do to her. Her throat felt tight, and her chest felt heavy. She felt like she was choking, drowning. She felt like she could puke, but emotions could never be puked out like a virus. If only life was so easy. Yeah, there's yeah, definitely a mixed bag. I get it, 'cause most of the bad reviews come from my spelling and grammar, which I get. I'm even noticing it as I read through, and yeah, that's fair. That's 100% fair. It takes people out. Although there's one Goodreads review which hurts me physically. It's very mean. But anyway. Yeah, she's getting Claire hugs right now, not Tim hugs. Tim needs a hug of his own, actually, because his dad just got kidnapped, so everyone... There are hugs all around. Hugs all around! Drada's emotional storm lasted a while, and even when the rain of tears stopped, she still needed some time before she felt okay going back to HQ. By the time she did, everyone was already changed and ready for debriefing. Drada and Claire quickly changed, but Drada didn't come to debriefing. Where's Rosa? Tim asked, worried when Claire came to debriefing alone. Resting, Claire told them. It seems she has some history with these villains, and it was a shock for her to see them again. Shouldn't she be here to tell us more about them? Midnight asked. She'll write up files later, but right now she has a lot of emotions to deal with, Claire responded. They all had a sad look, but since they all had their secrets, they didn't ask more. Tim, though, had put two and two together and frowned deeply. The heroes gave what information they could about the villains they fought, establishing that all five seemed to have trick levels between Lanny's and Tim's, and that they were all named after Arthurian weapons. Yeah, there's one nest. The whole, don't buy this book. It's so mean. And I'm just, so unnecessarily mean. Ugh. Anyway, who cares? I wrote it anyway. Other than that, all they knew was, for some reason, they broke Apex Illusionist out of prison. They also went through a list of villains that were in the block that got attacked, potentially scabies. Theories were thrown around the room that maybe Apex planned on this happening, that he was somehow in cahoots with these new villains, but why? Apex rarely worked with others. In his own words, he didn't play nice with others. Tim watched the exchanges happen in front of him, keeping to himself. He had an idea, but he had to talk to Rosa first. He was pretty sure his father had no connection to these villains before this happened, but going by what he said about Rosa when Apex mentioned her in the prison, he had an idea. His father and these villains did have a connection. They had a reason to target his father, because they saw the world the same way. Deciding he best get Rosa's thoughts on it first, as he knew this group of weapon-based villains. As she knew this group of weapon-based villains, he didn't mention it. After the debriefing, he grabbed a laptop and made himself comfortable at Rosa's side as she slept off her emotions, curled up small under the white blankets of the infirmary. I'm definitely gonna have to finish after this chapter. Slowly, the white ball of cotton started to uncurl, and Drada found herself waking up for the second time in 2 days, after basically passing out from exhaustion. After she made a mental note to try not to do it again for a while, she rubbed her tired eyes. "Hey," came a familiar voice when she finally registered the familiar sound of high-speed typing. She looked over to see Tim by her bed in the infirmary, tapping away at the keyboard that rested oddly between his thigh and his stomach as he leant back on his seat. "What are you playing?" was what Drada decided to ask, since in their week in the Batcave she had mainly seen him pass the time via computer games. "No game," he answered, saving the file he was working on and closing the laptop lid. "Just some research." He put the laptop down, taking his feet off Drada's bed, and sat up. "Want anything?" "I'm alright," she answered. Tim wasn't sure where to start in asking about what happened. He didn't want to hurt her, but just as he was thinking about it, Drada suddenly froze, and she took a sharp breath. It must have all come back to her then. Her arms coiled around herself. Her face was taken over by a look of pain. Her hands crushed the veins in her arms as she tried with everything she had to endure the rush of pain and emotion. "Claire didn't tell me what happened," Tim said quietly and slowly, not really sure he should say anything. "But I can kind of tell." "All 5 of them," Drada whispered. "All products." Tim awkwardly looked away, not sure what to do. He'd comforted Drada before, but his mind was in a very different state at the time. Now he wasn't sure what to do, so he decided to do nothing and just focus on what he wanted to ask her. Maybe thinking about it logically as he did, would help. "The other products," he said, slow and soft again. Yeah, there's a couple people who were quite nice to it but still gave it low numbers. Some people have that thing, like, that they can't give it 4 or 5 stars unless it's like close to perfect. And you look at people's history of reviews, and then it's kind of okay because in their head a 2-star isn't that bad. sort of thing. There are some of them like that. Some people are like that. Doesn't help Amazon's algorithm though. I know you don't want to talk about them, but they went through similar stuff to you, and he wasn't sure how to put it, and Drada looked at him from the corner of her eye. You remember Apex, right? He liked you because he believed you knew the monster you were. Would you say the same of the other product? Would you say the other products are the same? He decided to be blunt, seeing no other way about this. Definitely, Drada responded without hesitation, eyes closing and body tensing with memories. More so, she added through gritted teeth. Right. He nodded, now knowing what he thought was likely correct, and still trying to figure out what he needed to do to make Drada feel better right now. He managed to push away what worry he had about his father. The old man could fend for himself, especially since he doubted they would take him just to hurt him. With that worry gone, he could focus on Drada, but he really was at a loss. Should he hug her? Should he give her some space? Should he leave her alone? Should he stay as company? Emotions were just so very complicated. That's a really specific question. Drada struggled, deciding she'd dig. Tried to see what he was thinking. He looked up to her, surprised. She loosened her grip on herself and turned to face him. Although her body was still tense with internal pain, her eyes gave a look of determination. He couldn't help but be relieved to see. Still he felt he needed to make sure and ask before he explained. Are you sure you want to know more? He asked. Are you sure you want to get into this? Me and the others could deal with this if you don't want to. I'm not sure you could. Even with information from me. Drada stopped him and took a breath, preparing herself. I don't want to get into this. I really don't want to believe it's even real. That they're back. That they exist. Worse, that I'm going to have to fight them. The person who said it could be a TV series is actually one of my besties. Someone I know. I would love it. Get Netflix on it though. I'd like to animate it though. It'd be better. She took a calming breath and grit her teeth, doing everything in her power to pull the emotion back. I want to wake up now and have this just be a nightmare. But I've had enough of those to know this sadly isn't one. Her body, maybe on reflex, started to tense more and her arms went to hug herself again, but she stopped it. She still shook and she had to take a deep breath again, but she looked up from her lap, eyes full of determination. The least I can do is help out against them. Face them. I'm not ready, but I might even be able to talk a couple of them out of what they're doing. I can do this, she declared to him and to herself. Tim nodded, trying not to show his doubt. He still had the bruises to show from the last time he underestimated her emotional capabilities. But still, you can. But remember, you don't have to do it alone. The others don't know, but me and Claire do. And we'll be there for you whenever you need it, okay? He told her. She wrestled a small smile from the pain, blinking away some tears. Thanks, Tim. No problem. He smiled too, proud of the success of his little speech. So, do you want to know why I asked that, or would you rather take some more time to rest? He wanted to make sure. Drada shook her head. Tell me now, she said with determination, throwing her arms to her side and turning to face him completely. Okay, he sat back. When I went to the prison to talk to Apex about Project Trickster, He said back, I went to the prison today to talk to Apex about Project Trickster. Trader gave a confused look, but let him continue. Reason being that his ways of bringing monsters out of people were similar to the ways the project used to make people tricksters. You probably noticed. He remembered how pissed off she had been when he declared his plan, when they first met. Too similar. Trader's eyes narrowed. Indeed, Tim nodded. But I think that's why the products wanted him. They wanted an ally that thinks the way he does. It makes sense, she nodded. But I don't think they would want him as an ally. They're strong enough on their own. Unless he has any information or something, I don't see why they would take him. Drada started to attempting to bury her emotions under some thick, productive logic. Maybe they need his trick? Tim suggested. Drada shook her head. Six has a similar trick. Then Tim tried to think and silence took over, though it was only for a few moments. I have an idea. I just need to ask Trish something. Drada got off the bed and marched out. Okay, Tim hurried after her. They luckily didn't pass anyone on the way to the media office, so no questions about Drada's well-being. She just didn't want to answer them right now. She'd managed to bury her head into figuring out what the products were doing in order to shelter herself from her emotions. For now. It was at least more productive than moping in the infirmary, even if it wasn't the healthiest way to deal with her issues. She knocked on Trish's door, and the woman came out with a sympathetic look on her face that just annoyed Drada at the moment. Rosa, sweetie, are you? I'm fine. Drada cut her off. I just wanted to ask if you knew what was taken from the jewelry store Cutcaster hit. Definitely getting the firm air of, I don't want to talk about it. Trish brushed off any want to ask Drada how she was doing and proceeded to talk all business. I don't know, but I can get you a call with Detective Lawson, who will be able to tell you. She suggested. If you could. Drada nodded. All right, come in. I'll be a few moments. Trish went in and got the office ready again, clearing some space for the phone and making a call to get the voice changer activated. The jewels? Tim asked, following her in, completely lost to as to her train of thought. Drada nodded. If I know what was taken, I might be able to get an idea of what the products want to do with them. She explained. What does Cutcaster have to do with this? He asked, frustrated. Some of the jewels weren't accounted for, and I realized one took them. I felt her use a heat mirage at the scene to keep herself from being seen. I didn't know it was really her until we saw her. She told him, and he nodded, satisfied now he understood. Moon? Trish called and offered the phone her way. Drada took it and put her headset to her ear. I-1 Police Department, came the same man she talked to before. It's Moon Girl. I need to talk to Detective Lawson. She felt some deja vu. Well, lucky me. I get 2 hero phone calls in 2 days. You're lucky he's actually in the office for once. I'll put you through, he said cheerfully. After a few moments of orchestral music, Mattis's familiar voice came through. Didn't expect this, Moon Girl. What brings your distortion to my phone? He asked as flat as Moon. She asked as flat and as Moon Girly as she could. What was taken from the jewelry store Cutcaster hit? Assuming you mean the jewels unaccounted for then, we are looking at about 2K worth of 2-carat diamonds, he told her, which is not as much as you would think, apparently. It's only about 5 small rocks. Can't believe people actually pay that price for rocks. Thank you. In return, I'll tell you the most likely suspect for taking these diamonds was one of the ones that broke into the prison. She calls herself Excalibur. Drada rudely cut him off, really not in the mood to sit and listen. So she's a holy sword. Thank you for that, Moon. Hope things will go well for you. He got the message and kept it short. You too. With that, she hung up. Get what you need? Trish asked, moving the phone back to its normal place in the chaos of stationery. Yeah, Drader nodded and left with Tim for the Batcave. Tim, though curious, kept his mouth shut until they got to the Batcave. As soon as the door was shut behind them, and they had no worry of being overheard, he asked, "So what are you thinking?" he asked. "Long story short, they want to raise Apex's trick level so he, in turn, can raise the trick level of others." Drader sat down, anticipating that Tim would ask her for the long version. "What? Why?" Tim was understandably confused, sitting himself next to her, ready for the long version. "I've watched people's trick levels raise and raise," Drader began, her face set in stone as she disconnected herself from the memories. "When people get a trick level over 80, tricksters start to complain that they feel off when they get and when they get over 90, something changes. In some cases, it's a bad change. In others, it's a good change. And in some, it's not even that noticeable. But there's always a change. Did you see it with Lanny?" she asked, explaining like she was a walking textbook. "No, she was in her 90s when she started here," he answered, thinking about it himself. He felt a bit selfish, but he couldn't help but get a bit worried. His trick level was 84, and she was right. He remembered hitting 80, and he remembered an odd feeling of disorientation. Like the world wasn't what it seemed. Like he wasn't what he seemed. But it had been a few years since then, and he'd gotten used to it. If she was right about what happened after 80, she was right about what happened after 90. It scared him. What would change? Maybe his trick level had slipped her mind, or she wasn't wanting to think about it, but she didn't address the fact. Instead, she carried on. When the products hit over 90, they said something about accepting themselves and wanting others to as well. They wanted to raise people's trick levels, preferably to over 90, she explained. Tim nodded. That explained, well, it didn't explain what happened to a trickster when they hit trick level 90, and that was the main thought on his mind at the moment. At least it did explain why the products wanted his father. Glad you're having a good time. Though it didn't explain why Drader needed to talk to the detective. What does this have to do with the jewelry robbery? He tried to focus his mind on the case. I don't know how it works, but the scientists managed to find a way to raise trick levels artificially, without killing or torture around Series 9, she explained. And he really struggled to get his mind off the idea of 9 series of those experiments he read about. This was turning out to be a hard conversation for him, no matter which part he focused on. It only worked on those with high trick levels already. The subject had to swallow a diamond they had already treated with God knows what. She finished the explanation. That's just weird. Tim tilted his head with a frown. I know. I'd love to know which one was insane enough to think that up. She shrugged and started to take off the stone mask a little. She wasn't blind. She could tell what she just said had bothered him. And now the explanation was over, she was going to try be there for him too. If she didn't have to go it alone, neither should he. Are you okay? She asked. Fine. He sat back in his chair, running a hand through his toffee hair. Just a lot to take in. Yeah, she nodded in sympathy. You'll be okay though. I can't see you taking a bad turn if you hit 90. I mean, I've seen a few do it, but there are signs by now. He shook his head, wondering if it was that obvious that that was what he was worried about, or if this girl knew him far too well. Thanks, he whispered. What do you think will happen? He asked cautiously. Normally he struggled to talk to anyone about his worries, but he found Drader so easy to talk to. and even his logical brain agreed with his emotional brain. In the end, she was the best one to talk about trickster issues. A side effect of her history was that she knew more than most when it came to trick levels and how they affected a person. "I don't think you'll change too much," she said with confidence. "You're calm, if a little hot-headed, but only when something you care about is threatened. A lot like one, and she didn't take a bad turn." He froze a moment, wary at being compared to a product, but he saw a small smile on Drada's lips. "I'm sorry if this is too forward, but they tortured you, didn't they?" "That's what the file said anyway," he said, looking away, a bit ashamed of asking, but he was confused by that smile. How could she smile at the memory of them at all? Only 2 really enjoyed it. She shrugged. 5 and 6 would have their sadistic days, but mostly they did it because they had to. The same reason I had to kill so many, so... She paused to take another deep breath. "So... I didn't really hold it against them." "Right, I'm sorry. I just wanted to know how you saw them and stuff," he replied awkwardly. Drada nodded, a bittersweet smile. "I understand." He didn't want to have to ask, but he needed to know. They already had a problem from not understanding each other, and he didn't want it to happen again. To that end, there was something he thought it best to tell her. "I have a bit of a confession to make," he said slowly. "It's only fair since I just pulled up some bad memories and all." Drada looked up with wet but not quite teary eyes. "You don't have to." "I do," he corrected her. "We have to be able to understand each other on the battlefield, and in order to do that, we need to know the relationship we have with our enemies." He spoke like he was reading it from a textbook and took a deep breath before the last part. He'd never admitted this to anyone. No one knew him as Tim Drake. No one who knew him as Tim Drake knew this truth, except Claire. All anyone knew was that, what was on his file, that he and Apex had history. Yeah, nice. Apex is kinda my dad. I love how he says kinda. Sweetie, he is your dad. Biologically. Drada's eyes dried in an instant. She looked at him shocked. He couldn't tell what she was thinking. Her eyes just drilled into his, and he leaned back awaiting her response. All the response she had was to tilt her head and say, "You have his eyes." Which he rolled at the statement, relieved and shocked, all at the same time at her reaction. "That's it? And you still care about him? That's why you punched Tiger?" Drada spoke, looking away as she thought it over. He nodded. He wasn't always insane. It's kind of my fault he is." Drada watched him take on a look of pain and realized why his trick level was so high. Hurting someone he cared about. Timmy really has the worst time in the world. I started writing a bit of his backstory and I had to stop because it got too dark. Yeah, it was very bad. It was very, very bad. "We'll get him back safe," Drada told him. "And we'll help the products too. Where we can too." He nodded. "Or at least 1 and 3. You seem to like them best," he added. "I do," she smiled. "They're nice people." Then her smile dropped. "But as much as we know their plan, I'm not sure how to find them." "I may know a way," Tim said as he turned and pressed the power button on his tower computer. "How?" Dreda asked, curiously rolling her chair closer so she could watch his computer wizardry. One was the fire trickster, and which one was the wind one again? He asked. 5, Dreda answered. Well, the two of them together would probably create some kind of change in the weather around them, whether they want to or not. Like, I tend to make a room colder, and there's always a breeze around Lenny. If you look for weather patterns that heat and wind creates, and the pattern happens to be over, say, an abandoned warehouse or typical villain hideout, then we at least have a lead on where to start looking, he said, not looking away from his screens as he typed his password. Awesome, Dreda said, impressed. You've got some files to write up, he told her. She looked confused a moment before she remembered that she had to write up some new villain files on the other products. Oh crap, yeah, she pouted, rolling back over to her desk and opening the laptop. When something occurred to her. Wait a minute. If Apex is your dad, then how did you end up as one of his hostages? Surely he would have recognized you. She stopped and looked at him. Technically, I wasn't a hostage. I was a guest, he shrugged. A guest? Dreda echoed in disbelief. My dad sent me an invite. He's always wanting me to bear witness to his schemes. He wants me to see things how he does and help him, but obviously that's not happening, he explained. He wants you on his side. Dreda was glad his face was fixed on the computer because she smiled. It was sweet in a horrible way. His father still cared and wanted him to be with him. Yep, I keep telling him it would be easier if he just stopped being an asshole, but he disagrees. Yeah? And then we're in the interlude, so I'm gonna have to stop there because time's getting on. It is time to stop. And I will be back on Tuesday, for more Library of Ruina. Thank you, Mehedi and Luke and I believe Rahel and Toddling Statesman for being in the chat. Thank you to anyone who would have looked. And thank you to anyone who watches the VOD. I know, but I've been at it for about 2.5 hours apparently, which is a bit longer than I would normally go. But I don't have work tomorrow, so I can just, chill out a bit more. So it's all good. It's all good. We can have some extra today. As a treat for me messing up the schedule. But thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. If anyone hasn't already, please do press those like buttons and the subscribe buttons. That's it. That's all I've got for you. Yes, my name is Brady. Hello. I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Brady West Smith, live from the Forbidden Library. You take care as well. Good night. Goodbye.